gainer.
I will survive. You got a little pot belly there, Greg. You've been working out?
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm Rubenesque, and I appreciate you addressing me as such.
I mean, it's, yeah. Okay. I just saying it's a little curve there. You see that, right, Scott? You see that? Yeah. Looks like the belt's hanging on for dear life.
It's very realistic. It also looks like I am like maniacally trying to hold in a poop. Like I've got to get to the bathroom really bad. And it's
wow. I didn't know if he was taking it there, man. But
yeah,
wow.
Look at it. Look at it. That's exactly what that like I am running, but I will survive.
So I think we like totally crossed the barrier between like where fuck is like Christian family friendly for you, Scott. Like the rest of the show has devolved so far beyond where that's a bad word that you're in the clear. It's like a focus on the family thing, I'm pretty sure now. In your new guidebook. So welcome to Outwired, everybody. We're going to have a good conversation today about a couple different things for campground decision making and stuff like that. Before we do that, like I had you turned into a bird too after that. So there's our featured bird of the week. I just said turn him into a bird, and that's what you would look like as a bird, which whoo.
He looks like the guy from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon in that.
100%.
Wow.
That's kind of where it looks like a Gamble's quail crossbred with a Katinga somehow. This is really odd, although I would like to see what that bird would look like. So
I think you should redo your logo and your brand for Vireo.
That's not bad. That's a really good point. Yeah, this would definitely
really just decline that, Jessica.
It would get attention. There's no doubt. I don't know if it's the right kind.
Was it anybody important, Jessica, who was calling me during the show? Oh, Cleveland, Ohio. Nobody cares about Cleveland, Ohio. I used to live there a long time ago. Okay, so today we're going to talk about a couple of interesting things. You can go back to my main screen now, Jessica. We're going to talk about decision making for your camper and how they decide where to stay, what to do, kind of like what moves the needle for them, right? Like obviously they want to go camping, maybe. Like let's assume they've gotten to the point where they want to go camping, they want to go RVing, they want to go glamping. What is the thing that is going to move the needle for them to decide, is it your park? Did I explain that okay, Scott?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
So we'll talk about that. And then we're going to do a deep dive into national parks. Like there's some pretty horrific things going on at national parks that are impacting private campgrounds that are nearby. Not saying this is a blanket statement at every national park, but we have run some deep research reports on 6, I think, different national parks. I think I did Moab, we did Grand Canyon, I did Yellowstone, I did Yosemite, I did Rocky Mountain National Park, I did Great Smoky Mountains, and I think I did Acadia. That might be 7. Maybe I didn't do Yosemite. Anyway, 6 or 7 national parks. We have deep research. We're going to dive into that a little bit later in the show or tie that into decision making, or we'll figure out how that stuff kind of works. So before we get to what we came across our desk in the last week, which beer should I drink? We have 2 here because it's the summer. We have the Dandy, which is a blonde sour ale, local from Calgary. And then we have Cabin Brewing Company, which is a retrospectum Trum Pale Ale.
Careful how you say that.
Calgary. Retrospectum. So what do you guys think? Which should be first?
What do you think, Scott? I'm going to let you go. I chimed in last week.
I did. Well, I picked the first one before you were here.
The first one. We're just done at 3 this week.
I say go with the sour.
It sort of fits your personality. That's where I was going too.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's a compliment, actually. I take that.
I believe it is. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Who wants to go first?
I guess that I can start off. I would say, I talk about this a decent amount, but I really think, I think about the RV industry a lot. Obviously, because I do work with them.
Jesus, we lost Greg there for a second. He went black. I'm sorry.
But I feel like right now the industry is on the precipice. I don't want to, sound, really negative here, but just kind of looking at the numbers, looking at where things are going, it feels like the industry itself really needs to do something drastic and really step it up, because
outdoor hospitality, RV, camping, all
of it. But I'm really thinking about here's my take. I feel like outdoor hospitality overall is going to be just fine. I'm not sure about the RV industry, because I feel like there's the potential for the RV industry to start to suffer, because if where we're going, if this continues and fewer people are RVing, more and more campgrounds and parks are going to convert their RV sites to accommodations. They're already doing that in some cases, but it could happen even more, and you could end up with a little bit of a spiral. I know, a few years ago, some guy wrote an article about the death spiral of the industry. I'm not saying
that guy. It was Greg Gerber. It was Greg Gerber.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It was.
Yeah, I did a website for him once upon a time after that article.
But I'm not saying it's in a death spiral. I'm just saying that if it wants to grow again, they really need to kind of to step up their game, and they need to make some drastic changes. I feel like, overall, I don't have all the answers for them. If they'll finance a huge study, I'll find the answers for them. But you know what I mean? Anyway, I feel like right now these
you're fucked. Get a study and find out why.
That's right.
I mean, when you think about last year being a down year, and now we're looking at year over year, retail sales registrations down again over last year, which means that's down a lot more from 2 years ago. So it's kind of like things need to be addressed at some level for them. And anyway, I just think about it quite a bit, because it's a big part of the outdoor community. RVers are a big part. They're very loyal, avid participants in the outdoors, and very supportive. I mean, when I first started working in this industry, the RVers, I mean, they're the people out there taking the most trips, spending the most money. So it's like that group, we as an industry, I feel like we need to build that up a little bit. So that's kind of
because you lose that loyalty, right? Like, I mean, I think there's an inherent loyalty to, like, I have purchased a 100, 200, 500 million dollar rig. I'm invested. I'm going to go camping more because I own this thing. And if you take away that ownership and move it toward rentals or glamping or tent camping or cabin rentals or whatever, yes, there's still the same amount of people who love the outdoors, but there's less, I have to do it because I've invested this thing as much, right? Is that fair?
Yep, absolutely. And that's why when we've done research in across the sector too, that one of the things that that breeds loyalty among guests is if they have skin in the game, big or small. It's like I used to tell people all the time, it's if you want someone to go camping again, take a first time camper out, get them to buy something, even if it's just a sleeping bag or a tent or whatever. It's like now they have a little skin in the game. They're a lot more likely to go again, even if they just make a minor investment, let alone that very large investment in their recreation.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about this in Fireside Chats earlier a little bit, not the RV industry itself, but just how we had a woman on here on the show. I think her name is Sarah. I just say I think because, like, I talked to so many people. It's like I'm old. It's like an hour ago. But like her name is Sarah, and she was from a resort, Clayquat, Wilderness Lodge up here in BC. She's like 45 minutes in the middle of Vancouver Island, like beautiful, beautiful piece of property. And she's very passionate. She was when we were having a conversation with her and the rest of the guests, Scott Foos, Joe Dumeg, Zach Stoltenberg were on there. There's another woman on there. I think her name was, I'm going to mess it up, Stephanie, maybe, Michelle. I don't know. Anyway, sorry for whoever you are. But anyway, we're having a discussion about how, like, there's that different kind of trip, right? When you, and this goes back to our conversation we were having in ClickUp, right? About the different types of vacations and the way people behave on them. And there's that different type of vacation, like I was telling them on the show, like I mean, I built my business for 15 years. You guys know what it's like to build your own businesses too. Well, maybe Greg doesn't yet. He'll get there. But so, but like I spent 15 years in the weeds, right? Like I went on vacation, but I didn't really go on vacation. I went to a city, I saw a museum, I dined out, I went to a brewery, I went to a local park. I maybe did some hiking, but I didn't really take a vacation to disconnect truly and fully for a long time. And like the first time I remember like coming up here, and again, there's like I know this is stereotypical, not saying it's everywhere, but there is a stark difference to me between tourism and vacations in the US and tourism vacations in Canada and the rest of Europe and lots of other places in the world. Like, again, not slighting the US as the only bucket, right? But this is just my narrow experience. I'm an American, moved to Canada. Cool. But like there's like until I came up here and went to my girlfriend's parents' cabin, like, I don't know, 4.5 years ago, something like that, for the first time on Lake Shuswap in the middle of nowhere. Like you literally have to drive, I think 30 minutes down a road through a tiny community, and then you get to a dirt road and you have to drive 30 more minutes on the dirt road. And then you get to this little like just cabins in the middle of the woods, right? Like a community, but like right on the lake. And until I went there and I woke up the first day and I'm like, I don't have to do anything. Like there's nothing to do. And until you see that, or you're on top of the mountain, or you're in Colombia looking at the birds in the middle of nowhere, or you're in, on the hiking trip, Scott, like you said with your son, was it Denali? Like until you're there, I don't care. You don't need to like the outdoors. Like there's a whole train of thought of like, I like the outdoors. That's my thing. I love nature. I'm going to go hiking. Oh no, I'm a city person. Don't ever take me out there with the mud and the dirt and the bugs. When you get on top of that mountain, you like the outdoors. If you don't, like you're on your phone or you're just right. I mean, put down your phone, look, you like the outdoors, or you're on the ocean, or you're seeing the wildlife, or on the grizzly bear tour, or whatever else. But that is so important to introduce people to this industry, to have that first experience. Not saying it has to be the on top of the mountain experience, right? But we've talked about the great first impression, the first time they go camping, when they take their rig out, all those kinds of things, or you're getting them into the glamping lifestyle and having them experience nature. And RVing does that and has done that for so long. If we lose that, we're a little bit fucked, temporarily at least. Right?
Absolutely. It's one of the draws. It's one of those things that brings people back. It's that whole idea, it's kind of like what we kind of joke sometimes about the forest bathing thing, but I mean that's kind of along the lines of you need to get immersed in it a little bit. To me, forest bathing for like whatever length of time it is isn't enough. You have to like really get out there. I think the first time that ever happened to me, I did a rafting trip down the Grand Canyon, and the first day everybody was all wound up and uptight and everything. By day 3, it was just such a different group of people. There were people from New Jersey that were actually relaxing. It was unbelievable. So
yeah, it's hard to notice. Like even up here, like Banff is one of our most popular national parks. And I remember last year I had Kendra come up here, who's my HR person, and we took her to Banff, and we actually let her stay at my girlfriend's parents' cabin for a week, just relaxing and floating. And she hadn't been on a vacation at the time, I think, and since before her kids were born and her kids were teenagers, right? So but I remember walking around Banff with her, and it was like I've been to Banff like a bunch of times before then, but I remember walking around with her, and like I said to her, I was like, "Do you see how people just kind of are chill? Like this is a major tourist town, one of the most popular national parks in the world." And most of the people here are Canadians, Europeans. And, obviously there's Americans up here too, but most of the people are they're walking slow. They're taking in everything. They're not rushing store to store. And then you can tell who, like, generally speaking, stereotypically the Americans are, right? Because they're just rushing around and they don't know how to calm down. And like, I didn't know how to calm down either. Like, I'm saying this is like, that was me. And I'm not saying this is the thing that's always going to calm you down, or that vacation is. There goes Greg again. He just keeps going black.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't know.
But I don't know. I don't know. Like it's different. Like when you can stop and breathe and truly de-stress, And I still catch myself in those moments, right? Like I was just on vacation in Vancouver Island, walking on a beach with my girlfriend, and I was dealing with a problem with a client that, like, for whatever reason, he thought that he just couldn't wait the 3 days that I was on vacation for his emergency that he had. And I remember like walking along the beach after I got off that phone call, and I'm like, I'm not even looking at what I'm at. Like, I'm on a remote rural beach, right? And I'm not even truly appreciating where I am. And when you can unlock that for yourself, man, it changes a whole lot of stuff. I think we'd have a whole lot more people who are interested in going camping if we figured out a way to unlock that for them. And we have, but like at a greater scale. Nothing to add. That was my preachy thing. Did I preach too long?
No, I like it. I love this conversation. To me, it's like I think this, this is what, to me, the outdoors stuff is. The more we get people to have those kinds of experiences, the more people will be out camping. The more people will be enjoying it. It's like they have to take it. I just feel like there's a point where once you do that, it's very addicting. It's very, and the feeling you get from it. It's like the story I told you guys earlier about my son. It's just like it cracked me up when his teacher thought there was something wrong with him. It's like, no, there's actually something right with him.
Yeah.
It's just the opposite.
That's what well-adjusted looks like.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how many people would have ADHD. And like, to be clear, for all the people who just got offended because I said that, I have ADHD. My parents gave me speed in the 80s. So this is what you get as a podcast host that swears and curses and drinks beer when you give your kids ADHD or Ritalin in the 80s. I think the medicine might be a little bit better. Do they give Ritalin out anymore?
I don't know. Probably.
Jessica said they gave it to her in the 90s, but that's still.
Oh, and now you're going and back.
Yeah, I don't know why. Like, at some point, I'll figure out how to troubleshoot that. Like, I don't get disconnected from the internet during the week, so I don't know what it is.
It hasn't happened to me, so maybe I'm just messing with you guys.
It could be that, or maybe whatever's doing it to me, I've infected Brian now.
Well, no, I do it every week. Like, it's something to do with my connection on my computer. But anyway, before we get to Greg's thing of the week, Jessica, I just want to end on a positive note, our RV industry conversation, so that we're not all negative all the time. Do you just want to share the screen, Jessica, like my screen? So we have that. So we'll be good. She's going to figure out how to do this. It's one of those buttons.
That looks nothing like me that time, actually. If that's
well, I take it from the bird thing, to be fair. Like the bird, right? I just said add in the RV industry.
All right.
So do you want me to try to make it look like you so you don't feel left out?
No, because the first one was frightening.
Okay. All right. Anyway, Greg, what came across your desk this week?
I had so this is Scott's not here, but I had an awesome call with Scott and his son Justin. I got to learn a little bit more what they do at Cairn, and just really enjoyed meeting Justin and learning a little bit more about what those two guys do. And we talked about some collaboration, but that was my big thing this week. I had some other stuff going on, but that was definitely the most enjoyable, most eye-opening conversation. So we might be collaborating on some stuff coming up soon, potentially. Maybe you'll see it, maybe you won't. Maybe it'll be in the background. It's both important and mysterious. So
are you just making stuff up, man? That's like so light on details.
No.
It's unbelievable.
What?
I don't even know if it really happened.
What are you talking about? I just gave you a severance.
I talked to two people about something that was mysterious.
Yes. But I dropped you a severance and you didn't even grab it. I thought you were going to go for it. It's important and mysterious.
How do I know that's severance? That could be so many different things. What are you talking about?
Oh.
How's that severance?
I don't know what to do with you.
I
had a great conversation.
I'm asking for a friend.
I had a great conversation with Scott and Justin. It was cool to meet him and learn what they do. Justin's one of those guys, by the way, Scott. I have to tell you, he's both like incredibly good looking and smart. Like no one should be that talented and good. Like good job.
Oh my God. How much money are you giving him, Scott?
Because he's a really good dude. I just enjoyed the conversation.
It's Justin that's paying him, I think. So
does your wife know that you had a conversation with Justin?
Yeah, it's not like that. I don't know what you guys are doing in Canada, but down here we can say that stuff and it's all cool.
Okay, all right.
Maybe it's just a north of the border thing.
I mean, it's fine either way. You can say it either way. Like, there's no problem with that, right? But it's just okay. All right. I don't know if I have anything beyond what I shared for my week, right? Like, I don't think there's anything huge. I was actually just looking through my YouTube feed over here to see if there's some video that I watched that I wasn't trying to think about. Okay, there's one thing, right? Like, I did watch. There's a really cool channel that you guys can subscribe to if you're interested in marketing and how it changes, called Marketing Against the Grain, and it's by the CMO of HubSpot as one of the co-hosts, and they were doing a video about how the whole entire marketing funnel is collapsing, like right now around us, like not in the future, and because of AI and because of automation and because of things that are changing, right? And what does pass it to the left, sir? What does that even mean? Or is that like another Severance reference? Like, I don't even know what you're talking about, man.
No, but that's the idea. You're on the outside
I didn't
looking
see.
in, bro.
Okay, like it popped up. I'm gonna not read the other. Like, am I not allowed to read that still? That's a thing.
That's
like,
why it's in private chat. This is
okay. All right. Fine. Like, I only saw your comment come up on the screen. The whole thing wasn't expanded, right? So I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? All right. So, anyway, they were talking about the marketing funnel, and it was really interesting. We did some research on this as a result of that video, because one of the analogies that they gave at the end of the video, and they were talking about like marketing agencies and marketers in general, and how like not only are they not keeping up, they just have their heads in the sand and they have them buried, and they aren't aware of what's actually happening around them, or they don't want to be. And the analogy they gave was like they're like a frog in a pot of water, where you're slowly turning up the heat, and until like you get there and you're boiling, and then it's too late, right? And so we did some research on this, and I won't go into all the details of this. I did a LinkedIn post and wrote a LinkedIn article about it on Monday. But we started deep diving into specifically some of the different verticals like email marketing, and some of this stuff I've known for a long time, and we've communicated with clients a little bit. But what they're talking about in the video and what we're talking about in the article is like, obviously with the last year and a half, 2 years with AI has just sped up like astronomically. But email marketing specifically, if you look at this stuff, if you do it for your business as your, Campground, or Greg at Vireo, or Scott at Karen Consulting, like the metrics that we've used to quantify this data for so long are the open rate and the clicks primarily, right? Well, since 2021, Apple has had mail privacy protection in place, which is almost adopted by 95 or 100% of Apple users now, which is all the iPhones and all the Macs. That opens your emails on Apple servers so that they can check for privacy leaks and things, which overnight, as soon as they introduced that in 2020, early 2022, late 2021, I can't remember the exact date, literally doubled open rates for people. And all the people who weren't paying attention, which was most marketers back then, I think more of them are unaware of that specific thing now, we're just like, oh my God, it's amazing. We're doing so much better with our open rates. And then they passed it on to all their executives, and everybody started believing all this stuff, right? And it's just opened by a computer. And the same thing is happening now to email marketing, only on a much, much broader scale, with both those opens at other places and with clicks as you look at AI. And now you've got, like, if you have Gmail, if you have Outlook, if you have, I don't know, some of the other ones that are big, but like they're all adding these AI summaries, right? Apple has this in iOS, Gmail has this. Like, you can just get a summary of your day's emails. That's going to go to where your voice can say like, hey, let me have a summary of what's coming into my inbox or whatever else. How do you think they're getting the summaries? The machines are opening your emails. You're not getting an open. Marketer who thinks you're doing great, executive who believes the open rate from your marketer who looks like they're doing great. And then there's antivirus programs that we uncovered as part of our research that, as part of prevention of antiviruses, will go click every link in an email. And that shows up as clicks sometimes in some of these email programs. And now what happens when agents will, and they've already got these, that will go to your emails and will click every link and remember what it's about. So if you ever ask it or it summarizes your email, it will know all the things in the email about it. Those are going to show up as clicks too. So these metrics that you use to quantify not only email marketing, but all your different types of marketing steps in the funnel are all completely shifting. The pillars, the awareness, how you reach people. Like so many companies are dependent on Google search and Google ads, and it's all collapsing. Like Google search is dying. Not that Google search is dead, but Google search is dying from where it was up on a hill as the godlike figure of the only thing you had to pay attention to. Like Google's fucked. No matter what Google does, if they do flawless execution of everything that they need to do with Gemini, they will still lose a significant amount of the people who use Google to ChatGPT or to Claude or to Alexa Plus or to whatever. It's all going to fragment. So Google knows this. Google's aware of this. But like everywhere you reach people, everywhere they click, everywhere they go, all of it's changing. And so many people just have no idea. Like right now, not in the future. And you guys have to pay attention to this. This is why I always tell our owners and our clients, you need to be 5% aware of what is happening at your campground. You don't need to know enough. You don't need to know it all. You need to know enough to go to your marketer, go to your marketing agency, or go to your construction worker, or go to your accountant or whoever you're hiring, right? Know 5% enough to ask them the question to say, are you full of shit? Or whatever question you need to ask them, right? To understand, like, are you actually doing the job that I hired you to do and getting the results that you want? And most of the time, most people aren't going to have answers to the questions if they don't know what you're talking about. What do you mean your open rate is like either they're going to use AI and they're going to have right, or they're going to say, which is probably in most cases, they're going to say, what do you mean your open rate is 40%? I'm looking at it. And then you'll know. What do you mean your clicks are that, right? They're not going to have that thought leadership on top of it. So I just think it's so important for people to pay attention to who they're hiring. And that was my takeaway, is like the thing is collapsing. And we'll do different articles on all the different verticals. Like the pillars of marketing are the same. But the way you chase clicks, the way you chase impressions, the way you chase awareness, the way you chase everything else is radically, fundamentally different right now. And it's only going to accelerate.
So what's the fix? Like what's the message to campground owners? What do you do? Like, is there a way that AI can be used to, like, I'm sure somebody's going to work on this at some point, right? Like figuring out, was it just an agentic click and open? Okay, then we're not going to take that, right? Is there a way to even, will there be a way to tell if an agent just clicked it or an antivirus clicked it and opened it, or
maybe, but I don't know. Like there's nothing that exists like that for right now, right? Like it's a big problem with AI search. Like AI search is in many places being quantified as direct traffic in your Google. And people don't even understand that. Like you guys probably don't even know what that is. When you look at Google Analytics, there's your sources of traffic. You can see what came from Facebook or Google search or whatever else. And there's a big, huge number that says direct traffic. And everybody forever has thought direct traffic means brand. They just type in your domain name. And that's part of it, but that's a small part of it. Direct traffic just means that Google has no idea where they came from. So if you're in your email app on your phone and you click a link and it opens the browser, there's no history of where that link came from because you went app to app, right? It's not page to page. And so this is where like the problem with a lot of the AI traffic is it's showing up as direct traffic. And Google supposedly fixed their problem with that when AI overviews first launched. It was being labeled as direct traffic in AI mode. They've fixed that, but they're still not breaking out what is AI clicks and what is regular 1 to 10 blue link clicks. So you really have no way to know what's AI and what's not. I don't know if the future gets clear enough, but like the ultimate answer is to pay attention to your audience, to write content for them, to personalize for them. Stop trying to trick shit. This is not going to work. Like there was once, like the whole game of SEO is about like tricking things, like essentially, right? Like, I mean, there's obviously like, there's a need to do SEO to explain to the bots what you are, is how SEO started. And then obviously the bad actors in SEO and where we are today, where everybody's trying to game the system for one reason or another. But you can't trick AI like you can trick these stupid bots that Google has crawling or did, right? It's just not going to work. So stop it. Provide a good experience in your campground, provide a good website, put good photos, tell a good story, get people, like do good marketing. Like it is hard, but it's time to put in the work. Just like you need to put in the work at your campground. We talked on the show before about experiences, right? Put in the work. Those are the people that are going to win. Scott talked about it earlier on. Scott Foose talked about it on the show earlier today on MC Fireside Chats. Went to Pigeon Forge, 2 campgrounds, one that was 80% full for Memorial Day that had just a little bit of theming, was still kind of tacky. This is his words, right? But 80% full right across the street, totally empty. Nice park, clean, but no staff anywhere. Office hours were limited, no experience. You got to put in the work. Like, you guys know this. Everybody who's in the industry knows this. They just don't want to do it. And now you have to do it. I think it's a better world for customers and consumers, and I think it's a better world for owners. Like, you just got to try. Sorry. Anybody disagree?
Nope.
No.
Nope. It's with the options that people have out there. The days of people just showing up and filling up your parks are over. It's not going to happen. Brian's right.
Unless you're outside of LA and the national, is that too soon? That's too soon. Okay, sorry.
They're probably full. They are probably full this weekend.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to do the work. You have to go get them. You have to actively go out, grab them, and haul them into your park. It's like that's what you got to do. It's a different world we live in. People have a lot more options than they ever did for travel. It's a good time to be a traveler. I mean, when you start looking at everything that's available, I mean, you can start checking all these different things for if you're staying for a couple nights or a week even. I mean, it's like, yeah. So that just means you're going to have to sell yourself a lot more effectively.
Yeah, I mean, there's just, and the last thing I'll say before we wrap up and switch to decisions, there's a need for you to hold the people who work for you accountable. There's a need for you to do that and to value the services that they provide too. They go hand in hand, right? Because if the person that you're hiring, you're not holding accountable, then in many cases, not always, but in many cases, they're not doing what you actually need them to do. On a holistic, complete picture, they might be doing 1 or 2 things well, right? But they may not be doing the 10, 11, 12 things they need to do. Y'all got to put some value behind the people that you hire. Like, for marketing, like, especially I'm going to talk about marketing because marketing's me, right? Like, marketing is so much more than just hiring a kid to post on social media or placing an ad in your campground association's little book or putting up a billboard on the side of the road or producing a TV commercial or throwing up a website that just says RV park, I'm here. Here's a couple photos, right? We've talked about that before. Like, just put some value behind the team that you hire and be willing to pay the people for the expertise that they bring, whether they're a consultant or they're a marketer or a lawyer or an accountant or whatever it is in whatever industry, third-party management company, reservation software, all the things. Like, I will tell you, like, 4 hours last night, won't say the company, won't say the software, doesn't matter. It's part of our topic that I want to talk about in 2 weeks. 4 hours last night, we dealt with a hacking attempt at multiple people at our clients. Like, not on our actual websites, but on something that was connected to our websites. And 4 hours I spent, like, I knew how to mitigate it. But we had to track it down and we had to play with Cloudflare and we had to turn on security measures and we had to trace it back and we had to work with another company to do that, who was also involved in this. And like good luck talking to a regular marketer who has any idea how to even log into their hosting software. Like, the marketer who's hosting your website, in most cases, doesn't even know how to log in and manage the hosting because they're outsourcing that to like a GoDaddy and they're not paying attention to it, or they're outsourcing that to somebody else who's outside their agency because they're not technical. And that doesn't make them a bad marketer, to be clear, right? That doesn't make them a bad marketer. But they know what they know. And there's a holistic picture to this whole thing. And as we move into the world of AI, all of them are touching each other ever more closely. And you've got to be able to pay attention to all these things because, like, it can get bad. Or it can be really, really good, or it can be somewhere in the middle, or it can be, right? And all these things that we're talking about consistently on this show, whether it's the economy or the national parks or the decisions that campers make or, insert blank, all that stuff is impacted by the people that you choose to surround yourself with. And you damn well better hold them accountable, right? People damn well better hold me accountable because I still mess up too, right? But the only way I get better is for people to hold me accountable. I hold myself accountable, but I still need Greg and Scott to hold me accountable for the show. I need my clients to hold me accountable for marketing. That's how we all grow as people. We fuck up and then we grow. But just understand what's being done for your business and all the intangibles that go into it. If you don't want to know, that's fine, but at least know 2% so you know that that you're protected, that you're marketed correctly, that you have all the things humming, and then you can just focus on your business. All right, I'm done. It's too much preaching. Is it all right though? Like, do I preach too much or?
No.
I haven't been to church in a long time. I don't know.
All right, let's talk about decision making. Scott, it was your idea for the show. Introduce it.
All right, decision making. This is something that I've worked on from a research perspective for a long time. We originally, looked at how to quantify how people make decisions. I mean, I work with data. I'm in research, and it's back in the, I'm going to say late 80s, early 90s, Hilton did what was considered a groundbreaking study and what it is that people want in a hotel room. And what they did is they created this study that was pretty much just, the method was mostly academic, but they used it for their purposes, and they designed a new hotel room. How they designed it, everything that goes into a hotel room was based on how people make decisions on what's most and least important to them in a stay. And they did it by the type of person. So it's all based on like trade-offs and how people prioritize what's most important, what's not important to them, and how those things kind of come together. So that really kind of revolutionized hospitality. And how people approach it and how people view what's out there. And so, for me at the time, I was actually working in healthcare, and we designed a health plan using market research and how people make decisions. And I'll get into the weeds a little bit on how this is, just so that people have the background.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is when someone makes a decision, there's a lot to it. In terms of what's their history, who are they, what are their priorities, how do they view the world in general. But with that in mind, they're not making decisions in isolation. They're not just making this decision with a clean slate typically. So what you do is the first thing you have to do is understand, to put it in the context of the camping experience. If someone's deciding where to stay, they're going to have a list of priorities that is based on how they want to camp, who they are, what their past experiences are, and so on. And they're going to have in their mind a set of minimum requirements, and they're going to have things that don't register at all. But here's the thing: you don't know what those are. You typically don't know what those are. You don't know what that person is thinking about that they have to have, or that doesn't matter to them at all. So what we do is we take and we break everything down. We break every part of the experience down into its components. And what we do is we ask people, when you're considering where to stay at a campground, which of these items is most important to you, which is least important? And we'll do this in like sets of 4 or 5. They'll have different attributes. It could be a swimming pool, a spa, pull-through site or patio site or whatever. And then you're going to rotate those around, and you're going to keep doing that. And they're going to be exposed to all these different parts of their stay. And at the end of it, you know what you're going to know? Exactly what the priorities of that person are, because they're going to tell you if in a trade-off situation, when I'm as they say, where the rubber meets the road, if I had to make a trade-off and eliminate something and say that something is a must-have, I'm going to tell you that. But here's But here it is within the context of of all parts of their stay. And I'll take a step back here and talk about if things in everyday life that use research and the approach to it. One of the things that I did early in my career too is I worked for the Yum brands and for some fast food places. And every time you pull into a fast food place, whichever one it is, what you get is something that has been researched. And it's been researched, not just do you like this or don't you? Every part, like say it's a hamburger or a chicken sandwich or whatever, from the bun to the amount of ketchup, to the amount of mustard, the amount of relish, the amount of cheese, the type of cheese, the texture of the bun, the how much meat, the texture of the meat, all those things are done through research. I've done it. I actually did this. And that's how your hamburgers are designed. And it's based on how people make decisions. And it's the same thing with your campground. People do that and they don't even think about it. Then when they go and order a fast food burger or whatever, they don't think about how much ketchup is on there. They don't think about how much mustard is on. They don't think about the texture of the bun. They think about when they take a bite, when they have it in their hand and they're in the car and it doesn't.
That's a McDonald's burger. I've had that before. I know what that is and what it tastes like and what it should be.
Right. So it's like, so they're making this decision, even though all these components are important and they drive that decision, because they're going to go get that. And they, again, like you said, Brian, they know what it is. It's all together there. And that's it. They're just saying, I want the McDonald's hamburger. And they're not going to say, well, I like this because it has the right amount of ketchup on it.
Right.
It's like, I like it because it has the right amount of ketchup, the right amount of mustard. It's what I like. And that kind of breaks it. And again, it's the same thing for when someone chooses where to stay in hospitality.
Before you get into what those are, those things that are important, right? I think that's where you're going.
Yeah. Yep.
Before you get there, is there a danger of over-analysis? Maybe you don't need to analyze the mustard, but you do the ketchup.
If you're putting mustard on your hamburger, you need to analyze it.
I agree. Mustard's terrible, but I don't know if that's where you're going.
But your research may tell you that you don't need it. That's part of it. Within the research, we'll tell you. For example, we at a campground, you think of an amenity at a camp. If certain people at their campsite don't want electrical hookups, maybe you're a more rustic campground, but you still have electric hookups at your campsites. Well, maybe people are like, oh, I'm not making my decision to stay there because you have plug-in. I'm staying there because you're rustic and I like it because it's in the woods and it's not crowded and it's like I like this and I'm right on the river. It's not that you do or don't have electric hookups. So it's like they're making the decision off factors that are important to them but again, some things don't make the cut that aren't part of that mix. So
for that individual or the type of individual, or how do we bring this out for a campground owner, right? And I don't want to distract you if you were going a certain way and you were going to get there later, then continue on. But like, how do I bring this out into like yes, Tom thinks this way and Sally thinks this way and Steve thinks this way and Karen thinks this way. They're all four different, but how do I make decisions? I can't interview every single person after the fact and hope they come back that I've got the right decision process for them.
Correct. No, you can't. But what you can do is determine which items overall are the ones that you have to have. And those things will come out. For example, if you're a campground in a certain area that, I'll say, a more developed type of campground, people want some kind of water feature. They're going to want a swimming pool in all likelihood. And in all the research we've done, by the way, swimming pools always rise to the top. So people love water features. I know campgrounds that are right on beautiful lakes here in Maine, and people always call and ask, do you have a swimming pool?
Yeah. It's because they think the lakes are icky and they can't go swimming in them. There's fish. Ew, they're going to bite my ankles. Oh, it's cut.
Oh boy.
We'll just assume he agreed with me. Oh, there he's back.
There he is. There he's back.
So so now I'm going away. the idea there is that what you're going to do is you're going to have to figure out what serves people the best and how people are likely to make that decision. And a water feature is something that always rises to the top. It always does. People like it even if they don't use it. They make decisions off, and here's where it kind of comes in. And I mentioned this to Greg yesterday on our call. For example, if you go to a nice restaurant, one of the things that they'll have is utensils that are heavy. And I bet no one ever really thinks about their utensils like that. But what research has shown is that heavy utensils are associated with a more quality restaurant, a more quality experience. So it's when people are making their decisions, they're not saying, wow, they had heavy utensils, I'm going back there, I love the food. It's like, no, but it's part of that mix that goes into the mix of how they perceive it. And so
a premium experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so again, things I'll keep saying, I'll keep going back to like the swimming pool or spa, a water feature, those types of things. You know,
I will tell you, it's crazy how much I notice some of those things. I'll go to like not a super fancy restaurant, but I'll go to a nice, like there's a brewery near us, right? That has really good beer and really good food, but they have like utensils wrapped in paper napkins, like papers, right? And I will notice those things. I don't really care. It's not going to impact it. I'm going to go back, but I do notice it. So in some ways it impacts, did Scott freeze again?
Yeah.
In some ways it impacts my decision of like how I perceive that place. It just, for me, the beer is better. The food is better. It trumps, like, I don't care what the silverware is wrapped in really, but I notice it. Same for you, Greg?
Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, it's funny, after my wife and I were out walking the dogs after I had the call with Scott and Justin, and I was telling her this, and she's in front of me with a little dog. She turned around and her eyes got really big, and she's like, do you realize that, oh my God, I'm talking to myself. Jesus.
No, come back. I'll always come back. I don't know what it is.
I thought for just a second it was like every day in the life of Greg. It's just me in a room alone. Like, I don't know, man. Maybe some things will start going right after a while.
Go ahead. I heard everything you said. It literally is like half a second. I just pop in and bug out.
Somebody's giving me crap from off camera though, which I thoroughly enjoy. It's like the reason I come back every week is because Jessica will occasionally let me have it from off screen. So I wish she would turn her microphone on when she does it though. I heard something. Anyway,
hit the one. Hit underneath, hit the red one, by the one, and then you can talk in your microphone.
Hello? Can you hear me?
It's over there. You got to talk in the one. It's on the arm to the left-hand side. Look over to your left. There's a giant mic. You got to talk into it. There's too many mics.
There we go. Scott's back.
There's like a bunch of water bottles in the middle.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yeah. You gotta let Scott in while you talk.
Greg.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. I was very scared there for a second. But yeah, she's like, oh my God, do you realize, like, we started going down the list of all of our like favorite restaurants, and probably 7 out of the 10 we were talking about, and we're like, oh my God, wait, this one and this one and this, they all have flatware that feels like it's got a lead core. It's really strange. Never would have put it together before, but Scott mentioned it, and then it's all of a sudden like, well, wait, yeah, like more than half the places that we really enjoy going, like our favorite restaurants, they've all got heavy silverware. So they're playing mind games with us apparently. But yeah, not something I would normally notice. You need one of those Hilton surveys, right? Hilton studies to figure that out.
Yep, absolutely. And it's kind of the same thing with a swimming pool. A swimming pool or water feature, it's a bellwether for quality. People think that you're higher quality, that it's going to be a better experience because you have that. And people make their decisions based on it, again, even if they don't use it. And so what we do, by the way, is we take these things, we take all those individual ratings, and we'll be able to go from top to bottom. I could show people how this works, but you'd probably all fall asleep. The fact of the matter is that you get a very clear idea of what is most important, what is least important, like what doesn't drive people's behavior at all. But then you take those top items and then you put together some packages, and you say, if you're going to stay at a campground that has these features and cost this much, or a campground that has these features and costs this much, and the third campground that has these features and this much, which one would you choose? And you run people through a bunch of those scenarios using different levels. So say type of site is pull through or back in, or full hookups, no hookups, or swimming pool, no swimming pool, spa, and so on. And at the end of the day, now what you're going to know is which set put together as a package, because that's how people, again, this goes back to the burger or the restaurant,
right?
Which set of items, when you put them all together, bring people into your park. And that's kind of where the research comes in, but that's how people make decisions too. These all, if you think about all these little things prop up the decision. Some are big pillars, some are tiny little pencil-sized pillars, but they're all part of what props up that decision. And I'm not going to talk about people returning their experience on site. What I'm talking about today is just how people decide where to stay, that kind of front line decision making. So again, the whole idea here is to understand what are the priorities when people make decisions. And I can, in my experience, I can tell you again, the type of site obviously is most important, and that can include the accommodation. So type of site, if you want to put in, a cabin or something like that as well, that's obviously, really important. Then you have, starting with your amenities. Do you have a water feature? Do you have a swimming pool? Are you on a water feature? Then things start to whittle down from there. And, I think what I'm trying to say with a lot of this is to focus on the big things first, take care of those the best. And then, the other things, and this comes into your marketing as well. Those little things matter to the guest, but they don't get them in the door. They're not going to drive that decision, because that decision is complex, but sometimes it can be fairly simple too. For some people, it's you have to just meet these minimum requirements, and if you do that, I'm in. But for others, it's again, if you have kids, if you have a dog, dogs that are very energetic and high maintenance, and bark when you're trying to have a meeting. Excuse me. They make their decisions a little differently, but overall, what you have to do is make sure that you're taking care of those big things first, and understanding, what it is that a person places within the hierarchy of things, and imagine yourself in a situation where if someone asked you, I'm giving you two choices here, this or this. Which one do you want? And you can't say both. So if you can't say both, it's like you have to make a decision, and that's how we approach it. We force people into making trade-offs, and so now what we can do is tell you much more clearly what drives behavior, what drives that decision-making process.
I think this is everything you're saying, but I think the takeaway here is, at least from my perspective, is the marketing, and then I want to hear Greg's perspective on the experience at the campground, right? And the consulting and how he would advise his clients and stuff like this. But from the marketing perspective, and the reason I asked this about, like, you can't have John and Sally and all the people, like, right? You can't break them apart into individuals. It's too many people. You never get the targeting right. But if you step back and break them into personas of even if it's something broad, like the snowbirds versus the solo traveler versus the family with kids versus the whatever, if you step back with that and even use a tool especially use a tool today like AI to say, like, think about what the snowbirds would make their decisions based on. What are their pain points? What are their things that they're trying to solve? What do they like? What do they not like? What words do they like to hear or not hear? And then base your marketing off that. That's a really powerful tool to hit like 4 to 6 of those base groups. And I bet you that if you picked out your campers and asked them the decisions of that kind of thing, you'd find that they probably almost all lumped into whatever groups that the AI picked out, assuming you did your prompting right. But right, I think that's a number one way to figure out those decisions in advance. But what do you think, Greg, on the campground level?
So I think on the campground level, you should call Scott and find out what these items are. Scott, can you give us any of them without giving away your secret sauce, or do people need to buy the book, so to speak?
It's a lot of the top ones are what you would expect.
Okay.
A bathhouse of some kind, obviously is, with hot and cold running water. What they look for is, again, it depends on the persona. Brian, you hit the nail on the head by saying that. It's like, do you have, if you're a family, having things to do, rentals, activities is very high up. But again, if you fit that persona of maybe a retired couple, traveling in their RV, that's at the bottom. They don't even care about that. So it's again, it does. The persona type obviously is a huge factor in there. But
you can hit both. You can hit both, and you don't necessarily have to have the activities at your campground. You have to curate the experience. There was an example where we were looking at how AI answers questions and how it decides to guess or not guess what you have if it can't find information online. And one of the things was about bicycle rentals at a park that we do marketing for. And we found out certain models will guess and say well, it's a resort. It probably has this. You should call and find out. Other models refuse to guess. But either way, for the bicycle rentals question, if you find out that that's a thing that's important to a lot of your guests, you either write about how you offer them and all the things you do for the bicycle rentals at your property, or you write about local places that have bicycle rentals, and you so either way, they get the thing that they need to make their stay with you much more likely.
Yep. And that's kind of where I was sort of headed in that direction. That's why I wanted to know, Scott, if you could share anything specific, because I feel like I'm going to say the same thing I always end up saying on here. It really depends on what your park is, the why behind it, the market position, and who you're trying to serve. So it all comes back to, as Brian said, curating the experience that aligns with all of that. So there's no cookie cutter answer, but how it plays into the decision making, there's a bit of guesswork, but there's some science to it too. It's a little bit of science, a little bit of art.
Sure.
You do need to understand who and what you are. If you think, well, we're a campground and we serve all campers, got to start refining things. And then you can decide not every park needs a swimming pool, even though they are high up on the list. It depends on who you serve, who your market is, what those personas are. Some people might be really happy with a pond and you have some wibbits, some inflatables in it, or nothing in it at all. I grew up swimming in ponds and lakes, and I still like doing that over a pool. It's a much bigger body of water. Every little kid in it's peeing. Okay, I'd rather swim in a lake. I grew up that way.
The volume of water, right?
But I also don't have children, right? So I'm not worried about, okay, it's a dark body of water. I can't see Jimmy or Peggy if they slip under. There's fear in that, and it doesn't feel quite as refined or bougie, I like to use a lot, right? As a swimming pool would. So, but not every park needs a pool. Does every park need, to Scott's point, really nice, clean bathrooms and yeah, you do. Every single park should have really clean, relatively modern, at least well-maintained restrooms, laundry, those kind of things. Okay, sure, there are certain things that everybody needs, but you've got to pay attention to who you are, why you exist, and who you're serving. And then it goes from there. And then you kind of just, if you tailor that, and as Brian said, curate that experience, you're going to have a bunch of happy campers that want to come back. And that's the goal of any business, really. So I try to communicate to my clients all the time. Your goal is not to make money. If your goal is to make money, you are not going to have the success you could. Your goal is to attain and retain your customers, and then profit comes after that as a side effect. If you do that first part right, the second part happens naturally as a consequence of the first part.
Yeah, I mean that's any business, right? Like that's
Yeah.
me, that's anybody, that's any entrepreneur. Like
Yep.
that's a big toxic problem with entrepreneurship, especially as it's become so famous on Instagram. And
Yep.
everybody's like, I'm an entrepreneur. I started an LLC and paid $60. Fuck you. You're not an entrepreneur. Build something and prove me that you're an entrepreneur.
Yep.
Right? Sorry. Like all due respect, like you could be, but like build something. Stop just standing in front of the plane or photoshopping yourself somewhere and saying that you're an entrepreneur. But that's a whole part of the problem is like, fuck, I don't know how to say it. Like you just, I don't know. I lost my train of thought. What was the last sentence you said, Greg? I lost my train of thought. And I was going to make
I was talking about the attract, attain, and retain customers
the profit. The profit. That's
is
what it
two.
was. Like the profit, right? Like it can't be money. Like you can't get into your business. Like it should be on your list, of course, right?
Right.
But it can't be the top of your list. The purpose for you getting into business can't be the making of the money, which is why in 99.9% of cases, I'm sure there's an exception, but the person who's like, I'm going to make the next Uber, I'm going to make the next Facebook, I'm going to be the next Mark Zuckerberg. No, you're not, because you're not being you. And you're not, you don't have an idea to give people something that they either want or they need. They don't know they need, they don't know they want, whatever else.
Yep.
Your purpose cannot be to make money. It can't be. Look at every successful entrepreneur. I'm sure that there's one who will tell you like that it was near the top of their list, but anybody who gets into it for pure profit. Now there's a difference between like building a big company that way, like, and being a small business owner. And again, like profit is not the same thing as I need to make money. Number one is right.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, sorry, that was I didn't mean to distract you. If you had
No, that's it, man. That's and that was just a little footnote I threw in at the end. But yeah, to the point of almost everything we say here, and like I say, I feel like I'm repeating myself a bunch. Not everybody needs all these things. You just got to tailor them right for your customers. Know your customer personas, and then move on ahead.
Yep. And I guess to kind of bring this around to the decision-making process, what I like to make sure I address in all this is that I'm not saying that if people put a swimming pool at the top of the list in importance and you don't have one, that you should throw up your hands. It's like, no, the important part of this is to understand how they make their decisions and how and why it is they place things like that at the top of the list. And if they do, now you can go to your marketer and say, we don't have a swimming pool, but we have all this other stuff. How do we position ourselves against someone who does have a pool?
That's
like,
it.
What do we need to do? What do we need to provide? Because now you understand that the person's making their decisions based on certain things. Again, the bathroom is a great one. And if no one believes that people make decisions based on the bathroom, I have 25 years of data to show you.
Mm-hmm.
So,
my mom did. My mom used to drive 12 miles across the city to go to the wall or the gas station with a clean bathroom. You just wasted that much fuel to go over there to save 2 cents on gas because they had a clean bathroom. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, and in a campground, it's twice as. But that's the first thing people do is they get out of their car and they get out, they go in your bathroom. If it sucks, they're probably rolling the windows back up, locking the doors, and backing that thing down the driveway.
I remember working in the early days, working with KOA and talking about the bathroom, and then visiting the Billings, Montana KOA, the original one. Mm-hmm. And the guy who owned it, he goes, "So you got the guy who does the research?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Here, I want to show you something." And he took me to one of the bathrooms that they had. They had several bathhouses, and it was the most unbelievable campground bathroom I've ever seen. I mean, it was like a 5-star hotel bathroom, no lie. Like artwork, the great Italian tile, everything. It was just, I'm like, oh my God. He goes, I'm never scoring low on the bathrooms again. He goes, I'm never getting dinged for that. And it was interesting because he took it seriously, but you don't have to go to that extreme. But again, if you understand that, it's that these things are important. Now you know what to do. You know how to, like, again, go back to McDonald's hamburgers. If you want to do a different hamburger experience, know that people buy McDonald's hamburgers for these reasons, and now position yours against it. It's the same thing. And even if you're a diner, get yourself some heavy flatware.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, not always. Just like the swimming pool, not always do you need the heavy flatware. It depends on how you want to position yourself and who's coming and what you want them to perceive you as.
That's right.
Correct.
Right?
Absolutely. But yeah, it's anyway. That's why I kind of wanted to talk about this topic today, because there's a lot of science based on in the background and all this and how people make decisions. But you don't have to know all the science, but you have to know and to think about how people do make a decision on where to stay, and use that to prioritize what you have and how you can position yourself. I think that's what's most important.
Anything else to add about decision making? Or
I think that's fine. And if anyone wants to know more, I could totally geek out on this. I got some stuff running right now on some decision making stuff that's gonna be really cool. So
you want to give us a hint?
In the future.
Want to give us a hint? Or
I'm actually doing I'm financing my own research on some amenities and how people choose, like, for example, with glamping accommodations and such. So it's gonna tell you from top to bottom what the priorities are.
Well, we know bathrooms is number one. I mean, that's never going to change, right? Like, Jessica, do you have Jessica? There's a photo we want to share over here. How important the bathrooms are. No, on my camera over here. Just flip to my camera.
Leave me out of it. Oh yeah. Actually, yeah, if I went to a park and they had that, I mean, that would be my reaction. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
Well executed.
Yep.
Why do I look
pretty close? Jessica's doing this, Greg. She's flipping it back and forth. Yeah, your buddy Jessica. It's pretty good.
I'm trying to figure out why I look insane in all of the images you create. I'd like to see the prompts. I would like.
At least you have good teeth.
I do have good teeth. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
It made the beard a little darker than it is too. I appreciate that. Took about 1.5 years off. That's good. Like that.
All right, I like that. Okay, are we switching to national parks now?
Sure.
Anyways, let's go to national parks. If we want to delay for a second, I did, Scott, while we were talking, I made you a song. Are you interested to hear your song?
Why wouldn't I?
You can probably share the screen again.
Probably because it's good.
So they can hear. I haven't listened to this. I haven't listened to this at all.
In the room, ego on parade, AirPods in, but they're not even played. You say, hey, good morning. He just yawns and scoffs, rolls his eyes, clears his throat, and conversation coughs. Anyways, there it is. He hijacks the vibe like a talk radio quiz. You mention world peace, he's checking his phone. You bring up your dog, he changes the tone. Complaints on repeat, glitch in his brain. Trigger word detected, he can't refrain. Anyways, let's go magic word. Cuts you like a chainsaw, subtle as a bird. Sarcasm, confetti, raining on your points. He's the king of derail, crowns made of tough joints. Anyways, echoes down the hall, shifting every combo till it's all about Scott, yo.
What do you think?
Love it. It's perfect.
It's so fun that we can make songs like this just out of the blue in like seconds in the background. So, all right, let's talk about national parks. So we have, there's Greg again. Jeez, that scared me. Like,
Jesus,
I reacted.
that's
I had a
almost
reaction. Did you see that on camera? Like, I was expecting to just go to ChatGPT, and I was like, maybe not that. Well, there. That's the pose that was in there.
It's funny. It's the same. It's the same pose. Like, I'm not going to go there. All right. Yep. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Yeah, sure. So, because we're going to a couple different things here. So, we know that this is a thing that national parks are being impacted by DOGE. Before I go into some of the research that we found, we're going to look at a couple specific national parks, some really deep data points. We're going to explore why this is happening at these specific national parks. I think we've got a big enough diversity of subset here of the ones we talked about in the beginning. Yosemite, Yellowstone, we're going to look at Moab, Grand Canyon National Park, Acadia, I think Great Smoky Mountains is in there. To say that I think this, depending on what we read, depending on what we uncover here, that this is a trend. So before we get to that and deep dive into that, what are the latest things that you've heard, Scott?
What I've heard, personally, in the data level, really is that people are really hesitant to want to take these trips to visit these places. They're saying that it's kind of like a wait and see approach. I know everybody is saying that now, but really and truly, that seems to be where everybody's head is. That there's still the possibility of a later in the season bump, but I don't think for most of the folks that plan these big trips are the ones that are going to hurt the most. The ones that people would go visit several national parks.
You're not making a big trip plan decision a month before summer ends or 2 weeks.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So it's exactly, and so people are basically saying, they might go visit one, but they're probably not. They're going to take maybe a couple shorter trips. They're definitely staying closer to home. That's one of the things that we're seeing, is that people are definitely staying close to home.
Okay. Greg, anything to add before we dive into this data?
No, let's go. I'm curious to see.
So we got a lot of shit here. We're going to skim through this. It's pretty dense, but there's a couple big highlights. We'll start with Moab just because I read this already. So again, like our prompt here is deep research. Like, can you research for me the impact of DOGE and the government payroll cuts at national parks and how they've impacted Moab in Utah? I'm looking for articles, anecdotal evidence, news reports from the local community, information specifically about the Moab National Parks or its campgrounds, facilities, hiking trails, staff reductions, anything related to that I can use to help me understand why a private campground or RV resort or glamping resort in the immediate area would be down. This one's 25%. The other ones we just did down year over year. And then we added that it was what DOGE was, because it asked me that, recent months in 2025 only, so not historical. And then just primarily what the national park was and some other things. So all the prompts are the same, right? So we have like federal payroll cuts and the DOGE initiative. We're not going to go into what DOGE is. In Utah alone, like some highlights, 17 National Park Service staff lost their jobs, including several in the Southeast Utah group, which manages arches and canyon lands. Other land agencies were hit too. Alongside layoffs, DOGE moved to slash federal facility cuts in Moab. The 35,000 square foot NPS headquarters for arches, canyonlands, Hovenweep, and natural bridges was slated for lease termination to save about $805,000 over 10 years. Utah officials sounded the alarms, noting this hub houses engineers, search and rescue gear, maintenance shops, and even archaeological archives for the parks. Shuttering it would displace hundreds of employees and critical equipment with no clear relocation path. Local leaders warned that closing Moab's federal office could jeopardize public safety, land management, and the region's tourism-based economy. I'm just skimming for all this. Okay, so reduced staffing and services in the parks. By spring of 2025, staffing at Canyonlands and Arches was at a historic low. The layoffs in February hit every category. Park rangers, maintenance crews, visitor center staff, and administrative roles were terminated overnight. In the Southeast Utah group parks, which is Arches and Canyonlands, at least 3 permanent staff were let go in the first round. Many had satisfactory performance reviews. Firings were later ruled improper by judges, but the damage was done. Remaining rangers described morale as devastated, quote unquote. For the people who are listening on the podcast, this is on YouTube. You can see this and read because we're going to skip around. Those still on the job face a heavier workload and longer hours with, quote, months behind on hiring and training of seasonal staff. Visitors in spring of 2025 immediately noticed scaled back services in the parks At some sites nationally, visitor centers reduced hours or closed certain days, and ranger-led programs were cut back. In Utah's Mighty Five parks, Arches took the brunt of early changes. In March, it indefinitely closed the popular Fiery Furnace hiking area. No more ranger-guided tours or permits, citing insufficient staff. The park also removed garbage cans and picnic tables at trailheads to reduce maintenance workloads. Canyonlands did not announce major closures of its own as of April, but it too was operating with a skeleton crew. Visitor center hours were curtailed. In at least one instance, only a single ranger was staffing the entrance station at Arches, while the park's main visitor center opened late at 9 a.m. Somebody told me, I don't think it's in their report, that they're actually shutting down the whole visitor center for the rest of the year. This is what I heard from somebody in the area, right? Purposely being vague. But routine services that visitors take for granted, from emptying trash bins to cleaning restrooms, were slipping, which is what we talked about in February. And everybody was, remember when I got like hate grouped and canceled from the Facebook group? Hey, guess what? You should have listened, right? If you're near Moab or anywhere else, like, this is happening. And we were the first people to talk about this stuff in February, right? About DOGE and that these things were happening. Park advocates warned that overflowing trash cans and bare toilet paper rolls would become common if cuts persisted. Indeed, some restrooms and Arches were found closed off with cones and no explanation, likely due to staffing limits for cleaning. A former Utah park superintendent bluntly told visitors to expect long lines and restrooms aren't going to be clean because of the layoffs. Maintenance backlogs. Park campgrounds in the Moab area remained open, but staffing was so thin that basic upkeep and fee collection were strained. Fewer law enforcement rangers and interpretive staff were visible on trails or roads. A USA Today reporter in early March noted 2 days of hiking without seeing a single uniformed ranger on patrol. Campground closures and trail access issues. Beyond NPS sites, the federal cuts hit other public lands around Moab, causing campground and trail access challenges. U.S. Forest Service lost a huge chunk of its Moab area personnel. The entire 5-person trail crew for the LaSalle Mountains, which overlook Moab, was laid off, leaving Forest Service ranger. Am I back now?
Yeah.
She'll do that. She went to she'll be right back. She'll change the screen so you can see it. But leaving one Forest Service ranger to cover thousands of acres and 6 campgrounds in the LaSalles. One. Right? That lone ranger is normally tasked with fee enforcement, visitor compliance, and cleaning vault toilets, an overwhelming job solo. The fired crew members usually maintained marquee recreation assets like the whole Enchilada Trail, the 35-mile famous mountain bike route from the LaSalle Peaks down to Moab. They would saw out fallen trees, repair trail damage, and prep the high-elevation sections each summer. Now, with all 5 gone and even seasonal hires in limbo, if a tree falls across a trail or a rock slide occurs, there's now no one left to go and clear it, a former crew member lamented. Volunteers and local county workers can help to an extent, but only federal rangers are authorized to use chainsaws in the forest, creating a potential bottleneck for trail maintenance. This could delay the seasonal opening of the whole Enchilada, usually July 1st, or make it hazardous if obstacles aren't removed. Campgrounds also face reduced oversight on Forest Service and BLM lands. Like, this is just keeps going on, right, guys? Saw staff cuts as part of this. BLM campgrounds and boat ramps across the West have closed or cut hours. An Associated Press report in late April tallied at least 30 federal lake recreation sites in 6 states being partially shut off due to lack of staff. Fewer rangers on patrol, reduced services, less frequent trash pickup. Cave tours are now in Great Basin National Park, which is, I guess, in eastern Nevada. Cave tours are now offered as staffing permits. Safety is another worry. Search and rescue capability in Canyonlands and Arches has diminished with fewer rangers available. Parks have started leaning on local county sheriffs and EMS for emergency response in extreme situations. Former Superintendent Walt Dabney, who ran Canyonlands and Arches in the 90s, warned that visitors often underestimate the risks of Utah's desert. If staff is not there to find them quickly, this can be very tragic. Every ranger pulled from field duty leaves gaps in coverages. Tourism decline and economic impacts. Moab's tourism industry in 2025 is feeling the fallout. Normally bustling spring and summer seasons have been noticeably slower. Private campgrounds, RV resorts, and glamping operators. I think this is because I put the 25% in the prompt, to be clear. Drop in but a drop in business year over year. We've actually since verified this. Multiple factors are driving this decline, but many tie back to the federal cuts. One major hit has been the disappearance of international visitors. Fuck, we should have covered that on a show and let people know in advance, guys. Where were you guys at sleeping on the job? Especially Canadians. In a typical year, Canadians make up nearly half of Utah's foreign tourists, over 270,000 visitors, and they tend to stay longer and spend more per trip than domestic travelers. But in 2025, Canadians are boycotting U.S. travel in large numbers, angered by President Trump's hostile rhetoric. A Canadian survey in March found 58% were canceling or delaying U.S. trips. Moab is acutely feeling this. Local hotels have virtually zero Canadian bookings for the summer. One boutique resort that usually hosts many Canadians had not had a single Canadian booking for August. The working partner of that resort said foreign tourists, many of whom are now staying away, normally account for 10% of his guests and a big share of revenue. By late May, his bookings were down $170,000 year to date, with international travelers making up 44% of all cancellations. It's not just Canadians. Potential American visitors are also pulling back due to the park situation. Moab businesses are hearing from would-be tourists who are worried the national parks might not be fully open or well-maintained because of the staffing cuts. People might assume the national parks would be shut down. That's my biggest concern. By far, the majority of people who come to this town do something connected to the parks, said one Moab adventure outfitter. Travel data backs this up. Even as overall U.S. travel recovers post-COVID, trips to national parks have dipped. The U.S. Travel Association noted a decline in national park visitation by Americans in early 2025, breaking otherwise consistent travel trends. The ongoing uncertainty over park staffing and services, e.g., will the campground be open? Are there rangers for safety? Has led some to choose different destinations. One local river tour company, Texas Riverways, reported a steady stream of cancellations, particularly from Canadian clients, costing them at least $10,000 in lost bookings by March. The owner of a 4x4 rental outfit in Moab lamented that after 2 rough pandemic years, we were really hoping things would turn around this year, but the news of park layoffs and foreign boycotts have dealt another blow. He noted the audible absence of foreign languages in town this summer, a stark contrast to pre-pandemic times. Perception problem is key. Even when parks remain open, the idea that they're short-staffed with overflowing toilets or no rangers can dissuade tourists. People don't know if the park is going to be open, if toilets are going to be overflowing, explained one Moab hotelier. And if it's trashed, people won't come. The sentiment is widely shared by Moab's tour operators, guides, and restaurateurs who worry the visitor experience will deteriorate and tarnish the area's reputation. Moab's economy is overwhelmingly dependent on tourism, so a sustained 25% drop in visitation is alarming. Business owners like Merrick Goltz, who run a local shuttle service, say they've already felt the ripples of the cuts. People are nervous. If visitors aren't confident the services they need will be ready and waiting for them, they won't come. Moab's tourism downturn in 2025 is thus a combination of direct effects and indirect effects. Community response and outlook, protesting, marketing front. People are trying to pivot a little bit, but there's no denying the short-term pain. Tightening their belts. To domestic travel, human toll, blah, 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 blah. Discuss.
Even though I talk about not using anecdotes too much, I'm gonna use one, a personal one. In August of 1997, my friends and I had planned a trip to.
I don't mean to interrupt you. Were dinosaurs alive back then?
We were looking for the fresh fossils.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
We were going to hike Antelope Canyon, which is one of those slot canyons. It's photographed all the time. You'll see it. If you look it up, you'll see, all these beautiful photographs. We had been in Utah for a few days, and we'd been in the backcountry, and on our way out, we saw a ranger, and we were talking to him, asking how things were going, and he had just asked us what our plans were, and we said we're going to Antelope Canyon, and he was like, there's a rule here. He goes, if you look 360 degrees, if you see rain, don't go in that canyon. So we looked, and we're like, well, there's rain, and he goes, don't go. He goes, it's a really bad idea. And so we didn't. We're like, well, we'll just go home, do it another day. That day, 12 people died in a flash flood in Antelope Canyon. People were freaked out when we got home because they all knew that we were supposed to hike it. And the ranger was the one, who we talked to, who told us we thought out that information. And I'm just using that as an example. It's like, I know that sounds really extreme, but that's what they do. This is what that staff does, that experienced staff. He was this older guy who had worked there for like 30 years, and he knew. And it's like, that's what you lose when you make these kinds of cuts and you don't, but keep those people on board.
Like this is, go ahead, Greg.
No, and that's it's really funny that you say that, because we have a story we talk about all the time. My wife was she was out west traveling for work, so she was on her own in the Grand Canyon. She was doing some hiking, and she very much had this type of moment. Scott, she ran into a ranger, and he said, "Oh, where are you headed?" She's like, "Well, I'm headed down this trail here. I have a couple of hours. I've got 1.5 liters of water on my back, on my camelback." And he was like, "Okay, don't go." She's like, "What do you mean? I got 1.5 liters. I'm only going to go a little ways." He's like, "Yeah, don't go. That's not enough for this time of the day. By the time you realize you're thirsty, I'm going to have to come out later and get you." And so she didn't go, got back to the hotel, and the very next day was reading headlines about how, and she saw the picture of this guy's, she's like on her phone, she's like, "Oh my God, that's the guy." Same trail, they had to go down and get 3 hikers that had been essentially dehydrated and exhausted. So yeah, that's that type of stuff that people don't realize that they do. They're saving lives every day just simply by telling somebody, "Don't go down there, hang out here. We do this all the time. You think you can handle it, you can't." And then beyond that, the really, for me, the really puzzling thing about this, and this is probably not something you want to get into. Maybe it is, I don't know. But you're talking about a multiplier on every dollar spent that's essentially like 9 to 1 for every dollar that we spend on operating national parks. It's like $9 returned. But then if you take it even further, so I just ran this, direct visitor spending is about 26.4 billion. The cost of the country is about 3.475 billion. So that's a 660% return. Now, as a consultant, if anybody has an RV campground or glamping operation and you can get a 660% return, keep going. Good job. Don't call me. You're doing great. And then if you take the value added to the GDP, it's an 820% return. And the total full economic output is essentially 15 times. It's a 1,500% return on every dollar that we spend. So it's an odd place to be trying to cut when,
I mean, it's not an odd place. It's fucking stupid.
It is. It is.
And it's be honest, right? Like, forget about politics. Nobody, like, you can
correct.
say,
yeah, I want to say that first.
Say, well, how dare you attack Trump? I'm not attacking Trump. I'm attacking the decision that, like, if Biden had made it, if Obama had made it, if Bush had made it, if Clinton had made it, it's fucking stupid. Because the math is right here in front of you, like you just gave, Greg, and also how it's impacting all these tourism companies, like the Rafter and the restaurants and the private campgrounds and all the people who are going to end up laying off a bunch more staff, who are going to be inevitably your brothers or your sisters or your fathers or your mothers or your cousins or your uncles or your moms or your dads. The fuck are you thinking? Like, it's again,
really
like,
difficult.
If you're wasting money somewhere, which, to be fair, the government is, and DOGE is doing good things in some places to cut waste. This is not one of those places. Agree?
Yeah. Totally agreed. Yeah. And
incredibly short-sighted.
Yeah, it's very
short. The numbers are here. This is not opinion. So you can demonize me, you can email me, you can criticize me, you can block me from your Facebook group, but this is fucking true, right?
It's pretty hard to get around. I mean, math is math, and it's really tough to get around that.
But you're seeing these are local anecdotes from people from actual business owners who have strived their sweat, blood, and tears for 20 or 30 years and built a fucking rafting company and now are just self-inflicted wounds of pissing off Canadians or pissing off Europeans or pissing off everybody else or firing a bunch of workers that are causing it's self-inflicted. So like, I don't know why. I'm sure there's a justification in the minds of the people who are doing this. Why? I have not heard that publicly other than cutting costs, which we just showed, Greg just showed, doesn't make sense from an ROI perspective. When you have someone who's leading the White House who is supposedly a business mogul, you would assume that there's either something else he's looking at or he's not doing it for the reasons that he says he's doing it. One or the other.
Yeah.
That's not for us to debate, right?
Right. But this would be the place where, like I said, if you've got an RV campground, you're getting a 1,500% return on your duck. Keep going. This would be, if you called me and said you had that, I'd say, great. What I would like to do for you is a study and a master plan to see how much bigger we can grow your operation, because this is someplace. I mean, the numbers are telling you you should be investing heavily in this. Don't try to cut on this. This is a great investment. I don't know anyone. If somebody from Goldman Sachs said, I've got something for you, it makes a 15 times multiplier. I'm like, I don't. Here's my bank account number.
When I fucking read it,
what do I do?
I think about all the fucking glamping places and campgrounds that have popped up near Zion.
Yeah.
Sure.
And it's like, really popular for that, right? I mean, yep.
And maybe they'll be fine. Like, we didn't do a study on Zion. Maybe they will. Like, maybe a 30% drop in tourism is fine for like a thing that didn't exist there before. And there's still a high enough demand, and then the glamping people will be fine. Right?
Yeah.
But like, but why?
Yeah.
Why self-inflicted on yourself when we want to get, I don't know, I guess we don't as a whole, like collective American country, not everyone agrees that we want to get more people outside into our national parks. So I don't want to put that into somebody's mouth. We as an industry agree that that is a better thing to get people outside to enjoy the outdoors, to experience camping, to love nature, to do the things so that they buy an RV or go tent camping or want to go glamping or whatever else and come back. But like, what the fuck?
I think part of the problem too is it becomes, we're a culture to some degree of armchair quarterbacks, right? Like I remember this with my campers at my park. They would be like, oh my goodness, you own a campground, you get to go camping all the time. That doesn't, no, that's not how that works. No. You're camping, I have to go plunge a toilet that 4 people did their business in before, like after it was already clogged.
Yeah, but technically
I'm not camping.
Did you live on the campground?
For the first, like 4 years after we bought it.
You had a 4-year camping trip.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was camping the whole time. And, I'd have people that would say, I see what you do. It doesn't look that difficult. I'm like, okay, so let's do some math. There's 7 days in a week. You're here for 2.5 days. You see me 2 or 3 times, maybe equates to, I don't know, maybe you actually lay eyes on me for an hour out of a whole weekend. Okay, so 1 hour, and in 7 days, there's how many hours? So you see what I do for like this much of my actual working time, and you think you know what I do. I think it's very much the same thing. And I've actually talked to people who say, well, what do you see people do? What do they need to do at the park? Like clean the bathroom, empty the trash, right? That's it? No, there's so much more that goes into it. But there are so many people, and myself included, I think everybody gets drawn into this from time to time. And I try to check myself when I feel myself doing it. But I think in a way, a lot of us are armchair quarterbacks. And so people think, well, you can cut all this out of the park. Big deal. So
it's fucking invisible, right? The ranger that emptied the trash can, that stopped the bear from coming to eat out of the trash can, that would have killed your fucking dad. Like, you don't know because the ranger emptied the trash can.
Right. Yeah. They don't see that. They don't see the scientific research that happens at the parks that is absolutely essential to not just preserving these jewels that we have, but in a lot of ways preserving life for the rest of us. A lot of it is research around climate resiliency and wildland fire interface. How many places do we have to watch burn up? The fires in California last year that's so tragic. That a lot of that stuff happens in our national park system. So what are we cutting and why? If you have a 15 times multiplier on that, that's an investment. That should be someplace where we're trying to increase the budget.
Well, I don't want to go down. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole.
I
right?
started
like,
it.
No.
I'm
Like for you, like I'm about to say something that could start a rabbit hole, right? And then I want to go to the other parks. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole. I was watching a video on how the Federal Reserve was created in 1913. In 1913, it's fascinating if you look at the history of this shit. How it was created by a secret meeting with J.P. Morgan and a bunch of rich people, who basically passed this thing during the Great Depression, and nobody knew what the fuck they were doing. And it basically just created money out of thin air, and it's a whole mechanism to transfer wealth from the rich to the poor, or the poor to the rich. Sorry, the other way around, right? Like conspiracy, maybe, whatever. But if you look it up, like this is actually fact, and nobody realizes this stuff. But like, it's so funny that we're so focused on cutting budget from different places when the whole system runs on debt. When you go to a bank to get a loan, like, again, it's just keys in a keyboard, and you're just like, everybody, the bank is borrowing from the Fed, which is borrowing from the US government, like whatever, right? Like it's all just made up numbers. Like they just created an independent agency that can just make up numbers. And then you have to pay them interest based on numbers that aren't actually real money. And this is the stuff that we're trying to save in the debt, right? By allegedly by cutting the national parks and by cutting other services. And again, to be clear, there's a lot of government waste. I applaud some of the things that DOGE is doing. Maybe even dare I say, my opinion, most of what DOGE is doing. But this, with the ROI and the math and all, and you can say I'm biased because I'm in the outdoor industry and I'm camping. We all are, right? Maybe we are. I don't know. We all have our own perspectives that are informed by our decisions throughout our whole lives, right? But like, the fucking math doesn't lie.
No, it doesn't.
And this is impacting people in our industry for sure. So we want to look at a couple other national parks before we go?
Sure.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So I ran a couple more of these. We have Great Smoky Mountains National Park. We'll go across the country here a little bit. I have not read any of this like I read Moab, so I'm going to skim. Same prompts though in the beginning to get this. So staffing cuts and reduced services in the Smokies, layoffs and staffing levels. The terminations at Great Smoky Mountains National Park primarily targeted newer probationary employees, but exact details were scarce as the Park Service did not release a list of positions cut. Park advocates estimate 12 to 15 employees were fired at the February layoffs. This represents a significant loss, given the park's already lean staffing. Park officials and insiders reported that total staff losses, including buyout and retirements, could range from 12 to 36 employees in early 2025. The cuts affected various departments, while first responder, law enforcement rangers were largely retained. Other roles, maintenance workers, administrative staff, and scientists, were eliminated or left unfilled. One longtime employee described going to work each day, quote, wondering if we still have a job, amid a climate of fear and low morale. By spring of 2025, visitors began to notice tangible effects on park services. Multiple park facilities and amenities were closed on operating or reduced schedules due to insufficient staff. Notably, 6 of the park's 10 front country campgrounds remained closed going into the spring. The closed campgrounds included whatever, XXX. Let's see. Only the most popular campgrounds, Cades Cove, etc., were open. Even those faced partial closures with some loops or sections locked away, quote, to visitors. Most Smokies, horse camps, picnic pavilions, and other secondary facilities were also listed as unavailable in early 2025. Delayed openings, traditional seasonal programs, and access were curtailed. For example, the popular vehicle-free Wednesdays in Cades Cove, a weekly summertime bicycling day, were postponed. Normally starting in May, these were delayed until at least June. Maintenance and sanitation. Routine maintenance suffered as crews were downsized. Visitors observed that restrooms and trash bins were not being serviced as frequently, leading to unsanitary conditions in some areas. A pair of local visitors in their 70s told WRAL News that on a recent camping trip, there's no one to help direct traffic through Cades Cove, and the restrooms are in need of attention, showing how even basic services were faltering. Trail maintenance also lagged behind. Hurricane Helene had washed out trails and toppled trees in 2024. By spring, many of these impacts remained because, as one employee put it, quote, "We simply do not have the funds or staff to make repairs quickly." Administrative constraints. Beyond the visible closures, internal policy changes hampered park operations. In a striking example, park employee purchase cards were temporarily capped at $1 spending limit. This effectively prevented staff from buying even basic supplies like printer ink or cleaning products without cumbersome workarounds. Rangers cited such measures as emblematic of the misguided austerity. Firing someone who cleans restrooms and makes $40,000 a year, how is this efficient? They are at poverty level. They can make more money elsewhere. One anonymous employee lamented, arguing that these low-paid but essential workers do their jobs out of love for nature, not to waste taxpayer money. Overall, the cuts left remaining staff stretched thin, often juggling multiple roles to keep the park running. Visitor experience, accessibility changes. Great Smoky Mountains is the most visited national park in the country, with 12.2 million visits in 2024 alone. Entering 2025, it says visitation remained high here, but visitors now encountered fewer rangers and longer waits. Park entrance stations and visitor centers had difficulty fully staffing their booths and desks. At parks with entrance fees or gates, normally a visitor use assistant greets visitors and processes entry, but many of these seasonal positions were vacant or eliminated. What else do we have? Lines of cars at park entrances and popular sites grew longer, especially on peak days, as fewer staff were available to manage traffic flows. Visitor facilities and programs. Park experience was constrained, found limited options for camping within the park. Certain loops or sites were locked or off limits. Guided programs or ranger-led activities were curtailed. The National Parks Conservation Association noted many parks have had to cancel guided tours. Interpretive ranger talks and education programs were normally offered, however, fewer ranges and a freeze on non-essential travel and training. These offers were scaled down in 2025, et cetera, et cetera. It's the same stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Safety concerns, emergency response, community and media responses. Trying to see if there's anything about campgrounds in here. Park staffing cuts, gained wide coverage by late spring. Like, so this is public, like, everywhere, right? Like, people are seeing and reading this stuff in their local news. Impacts on local businesses. Great Smoky Mountains National Park is an economic engine for its surrounding engine. Visitor spending in communities around the Smokies exceeded $2.2 billion in 2023, supporting thousands of jobs in lodging, dining, retail, and tourism services. Any decline in park visitation or visitor satisfaction can quickly ripple outward to privately run campgrounds, hotels, RV resorts, restaurants, and attractions in towns like Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, Fayetteville, and Cherokee, Bryson City, North Carolina. Early indicators in 2025 suggest the park struggles may indeed have dampened the local tourism economy, though broader economic trends were also a factor. During the first half of 2025, Sevier County, Tennessee, home to Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg, experienced a noticeable dip in tourism metrics. The spring break season in March of 2025 saw a 10% drop in visitor spending compared to March of 2024. According to the Pigeon Forge Director of Tourism, this translated to roughly a $20 million loss in spending in that 1 month. Every sector was down, from attractions and theme parks to hotels and campgrounds, which saw lower occupancy. Fewer cars on local roads and in parking lots meant fewer customers in shops and restaurants. Tourism officials primarily attributed this slowdown to wider economic headwinds, high inflation, blah, 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 blah. Impact on private campgrounds. The situation was a mixed bag. On one hand, the closure of roughly half the park's own campgrounds could drive camp parkers to seek private campgrounds. However, these are okay. So again, right? Same stuff.
So Scott, I think you were going to say something before we jumped into this.
Oh no, it was.
Line it up.
It actually was mentioned in there, and you both have talked about it. It's like I've done some work in kind of rural recreation development and kind of how that just kind of in general how that works and helping communities. There's some really cool case studies of how in rural areas especially you can take one kind of cornerstone business and how everything kind of will follow that. It'll help. The whole economy can kind of get, that can be the springboard for a lot of development and a lot of just boosting the economy in general. And these parks are those cornerstone businesses on steroids. I mean, they are just gigantic economic engines, and that by pulling the rug out, it's the opposite now. It's like now you're removing that, and there's still a draw. People still want to come to the area, but it's nothing like when you have full staffing, when the places are desirable, and when you don't isolate 30-40% of your guests. I think economically some of these areas will take a long time for them to recover. I think a lot of people will go out of business. You just can't. I mean, if you tell some people lose business every year due to things like weather, some natural events or something like that. They figure, well, we can recover next year. But this is a hit I don't see being that easy to absorb.
Yeah, and that's a great point you make, because there are so many parks. Like just in the past couple of years, I visited Badlands and Big Bend. And those are two parks that you have to drive. You are driving through nothingness, beautiful nothingness, but you are driving through nothingness for a long time to get there. There are tiny little communities built around those parks that only exist because of those parks. Those places like Alpine and Terlingua near Big Bend. I wonder what Terlingua is like this year. And I can't think of the little town that's just outside. A lot of what surrounds the Badlands is Native American reservation land, but there are a couple of small towns that are there. Without the staffing at that park, with the attendance being down, what is that like? What are those towns like? Those little rural areas, I can't imagine they're doing well. But I think one thing that might be interesting to look at, maybe this is for another show, or maybe you guys have some insight to this, is, do we know? I hate to see the national park campgrounds close. I think it's terrible. It's short-sighted, like we talked about.
Yeah.
Is that actually helping some of maybe the clients that we have that are private campgrounds outside the park? Are they?
But I know like
a higher demand?
Clients in Moab are down 30%, right? Overall.
Okay. Well,
so
there you go. Because I think Scott, you made this point either earlier today or on another show, that there's a lot of wait and see. We talked about that a bunch of times. But if people think, just the perception is that they're cutting these services that much, they know that it's going to be one guy trying to cover 50 bathrooms, because they saw what happened, previously during government shutdowns, right? Look what happened during the last big government shutdown, which I think only lasted a few weeks. The images that came out of the overflowing trash and the overflowing toilets, and nobody wants that. So if I did have that big trip planned, and as you guys said earlier, nobody's planning a big trip cross country. Let's go to Yellowstone. I mean, some people are, but most people are not planning that great big road trip to see Yellowstone or Yosemite or the Grand Canyon now to go in July. Number one, they likely can't find any place to stay. That's something they've planned out a ways ahead. Now, if they find out, and now there's all these cuts. Oh, I don't want to go now. I remember seeing what that was like. I don't want that experience. So that probably still, even if those national park campgrounds are closed, to your point, Brian, like you said, they're 30% down in Moab. Okay, so apparently having the national park campgrounds closed is still not helping.
No, I mean, the problem is like, that's a good question and a good question to ask, but you're getting people who are canceling their bucket list trips who would have stayed in the campgrounds in the national park, but also who the same percentage would have stayed at the private campgrounds outside.
Yeah.
So you're losing both audiences, because both of them are coming there for the national park. One would have stayed cheaper, one would have stayed more expensive. Stereotypically speaking, right?
Sure.
For public campground versus private campground. Let's touch on a couple of the other things real quick. Grand Canyon. Staffing cuts immediately strained Grand Canyon's operations. 4 of the park's entrance station rangers are gone. Entry lanes had to be closed or consolidated, resulting in long backups at the gates. Wait times to enter the park doubled compared to the normal in the week after the layoffs. Visitors reported slow-moving lines growing by the minute. It's a quote. Even on weekdays, park officials publicly warned spring break travelers to expect delays at all entrances, especially from mid-morning to late afternoon when peak crowds arrive. In fact, Grand Canyon advised arriving before 10 a.m. or facing 1 to 2 hour waits in line. 1 to 2 hours just to wait in line during the spring rush. The timing could not have been worse. Grand Canyon was wrapping up for its big season. And some of the stuff is the same thing. I'm just scrolling back down to they all have visitor experience. They all have public outcries. They all have ripple effects on local business and tourism. Northern Arizona communities, to your point, like Grand Canyon, like Kingman and a bunch of those places, like they just exist on the way to the Grand Canyon. Like, of course, there's other reasons to come there, but there's not a lot. Hotel reservations. I'm trying to see if there's any data, like hard data in here about other things versus just 5 million visitors a year. Glamping resorts. Several glamping resorts advertised were fully staffed and ready to serve you, subtly distinguishing themselves. Hospitality revenue. And it says, okay, lessons learned. Okay, all right, so that's Grand Canyon. Let's see here. We have Acadia National Park, close to Scott.
Mm-hmm.
We have staffing reductions, 8 full-time employees, seasonal hiring freezes, voluntary departures, uncertainty of further cuts, reduced campground staffing in park campgrounds for Blackwoods and Seawall are operating with limited staff, strained fee collection, trail maintenance delays, facility closures and shorter seasons, cuts to programs, limited hours for popular sites, hygiene and safety concerns. It's actually got pictures of like 8 people protesting. I think more people protested. But visitation trends in 2025. Nearly 4 million recreational visits in 2024. Consistently ranks among the top 10 visited U.S. national parks. Early 2025 numbers. It was on par with recent years. Other tourism factors. Not a dramatic plunge in visitation numbers yet. So I guess Acadia's maybe okay, but it's still early. It was in March, early for May, right?
It's
early for May.
This is a peak summertime. The park usually just gets slammed in the peak summer months. So we'll see that it's still. Yeah, well, we'll still wait and see on that. I suspect it'll be that. I suspect it'll be down because Acadia is another one of those places where when things are normal, the waits can be long, and if they're low staff, it's going to be way worse.
And do they get a fair share of Canadian visitors as well, Scott, being that far north, or it's similar habitat types to what you can get just north of the border in Canada too, but Acadia is just kind of a special place. So do they get a good number of Canadian visitors?
They do. The places in Maine that get more Canadians are really in southern Maine. The beaches. Old Orchard Beach is a big Canadian destination. They're hurting. They're down like 40%. Some of the campgrounds there, I've heard. So those a lot of Canadians. Old Orchard Beach. There's more Canadians there in the summer than there are people from the U.S. So, but not this summer.
Rocky Mountain National Park lost 6% of its workforce. Staffing reductions, policy changes, impacts on park operations and facilities. Same stuff, right? Like I'm skimming through a lot of this stuff, but it's not unclean bathrooms, et cetera, et cetera.
And to be clear, too, a lot of people hear 6% and they think, well, that's really not that much. As someone who knows people that work for national parks, like we have one here in Ohio, but I know people that work at that national park and a couple others around the country. They are like most other, I don't want to say other governmental agencies, but when you start talking about natural resources and government, whether it be on a state level, national level, that 6% is a massive loss because they're typically shoestringing it anyway. Like they are very understaffed as a whole. So to lose 6%, you kind of have to set the context, right? Like where's the bar? It's already really low. So to lose another 6%, that's a big loss. And Rocky Mountain National Park, talk about a park you go in and wait for. My goodness, it is so heavily attended. There's a lot of population centers within a short drive of it. So it gets a ton of attendance and you wait around forever. I mean, there's roads and trails you can't get on during certain times of the day unless you make a reservation to drive that road. Now what? Now with 6% fewer workers, now what? It's unfortunate.
All right, wrap us up, Scott.
Oh, after that,
started off with an anyway, so we can take it anyway.
Anyways, no, we have a lot of work to do. The industry has a lot of work to do. I feel like there's some solutions out there. We don't have a good one for the national parks. For private parks, I feel like as was mentioned earlier, there's work to be done. There's a lot of work to be done. If you're a private campground, if you're in the RV industry, it's time to roll up your sleeves and get to work. Harder than you are now, unfortunately. That's just the way it is. If you're around a national park, you're a business, you're a campground, again, it's going to be rough, but keep pushing. It's like I'm trying to, because people still want to get outdoors. I'll go back to what Brian talked about earlier, that whole idea of being out and really disconnecting. It's like we just need to get more people out to have those kinds of experiences. And we are in a great industry. I know I say this all the time. We're in a great industry. People love the outdoors, and the more they experience, the more they like it. And that's where we get the advocates too. We need to get more people outdoors, so they can help advocate for this. Raise your voices, write letters. I would encourage people to contact their representatives and senators, and in support of the national parks, and see if we can put a little pressure on people. It works. They do listen. I know that they will listen. So anyone out there, please, email, phone call. Phone calls are great, by the way. They listen more to the phone calls for some reason. But anyway, that's what I'm ending my talk on.
Greg, any final thoughts?
Just to echo what Scott said, he beat me to it. But yeah, your voice is all you've got. Use it, whether it be an email, a letter, a phone call, requesting time when they're back in their in your district. It's worth it. A 15 times multiplier on every dollar that you pay in your taxes towards a national park. My goodness, what a great investment. And if you care about the outdoors, what a great place to put your money. And to what he said about the folks in our industry that we deal with every day, the owners, the operators. Yeah, it does suck because you think you're working really hard right now, but it's going to be a little harder. But if I can go back and quote my old partner Jeff Hoffman, hopefully he's watching. Jeff's got a great one to keep people on track, and he says it all the time, and he's not wrong. In any 10-year period, you're going to have 6 years that are about the middle line. You're going to have 2 that are better than you could have ever imagined, and you're going to have 2 that are going to be complete shit. And we might be in those couple right now, and we may have also had the 2 that are better than you could have imagined in like 21, 22. So we get past a couple of rough ones, and then you got 6 years of maybe some relatively stable waters. Let's hope so anyway. Don't let this. I feel like we hit a lot of negative stuff today, but
yeah,
as always,
we're not going to end on negative, guys.
As always, that's opportunity. So you've just got to find it. And keep your head down and keep working.
Yeah, we can't end on negative. So, Jessica, listen to the rest of Scott's song, and then Greg in a national park. I like this.
That's better. Greg. I like that too. That's exactly.
How can you not look at the national park?
Exactly where I'd. It's
You're
a
more
very John
svelte in
Travolta
that
dance move.
picture too.
Like thief, the subtlety of a quiz. Here's to the actually interrupters, the well, I think disruptors, the pro GPS rerouters, Scott and the police, and the cashier.
Anyway, all right. That's a weird thing. I'm going to spend more time on the songs before the show, maybe, and see if we can get it good. Like, I mean, there's positive futures here, guys, right? Like ending
sure.
on a positive note for real. Like, we do have to talk about things that are negative because we're addressing these issues head on. We're bringing them to the forefront. We're not trying to be negative all the time, but like, look at what is happening around you. This is a thing. You can't stick your head in the sand, just like the marketing funnel we talked about earlier. Shit's changing around you. Some of it you like, some of it you don't like. Some of the Doge stuff we like, some of the Doge stuff we don't like. This isn't about politics. It isn't about Trump. It's about math. It's about science. It's about facts. It's about what's happening. It's about what's impacting local economies. We are telling it to you. What you do with it is your choice, whether you write, whether you call, whether you, as I prefer, just come to Canada. We have great national parks. They're beautiful up here. Full staff, amazing. It's wonderful, guys. Head up here. But this too shall pass.
Yep.
This too shall pass. It's not going to pass soon enough for some of the businesses around some of these national parks. And my heart goes out to them, and I hope they're okay. And I hope that some decision is made to reverse course more quickly than I think in my heart it's going to be. But do what we can do. We raise awareness, we raise support, we continue to market, we continue to pivot, we continue to do things, whatever we can do to help people from a consulting standpoint, from a marketing standpoint. And you know, that's all you can do. Do your little piece, right?
Absolutely.
Cool, guys. Well, thanks. We'll see you in another episode of Outwired next week.
All right.
See ya.
Ah.
Like.